And here's the big question that everybody wants to know. Price of used, up or down next year?
So it depends on the time of year that you're looking at. I believe that we're going to have prices go down through the end of this year, which we only got a couple weeks left at the end of this year anyway. And beginning of next year, we'll still have this downtrend. Dealers will still not be selling very many. But then on the used side, you get the tax time bump, and that's going to be into February, March, beginning of April. And prices on the used car side will spike at that time. But after that, we're going back to seasonality of used cars. And what will happen after that is what happens every year, except for the last 2 years because of inventory. But what we'll have is we're going to have a price crash during the middle of summer. And I say crash, and we've been talking about market plummet. You've seen all the titles or whatever. There's not going to be an overall market crash, but what we have within the market every year is a seasonality crash of used cars. And when I say that, it'll be 20-25% that you get down on the wholesale side alone, because dealers will pay a massive inflated price during tax time. And I'm telling you, there's going to be an inflated price of about 20% during tax time of used vehicles, especially vehicles that are $15,000 and under. Dealers will pay almost 20% more for those vehicles during this tax time rush. And then right after tax time, we'll get that 20%, 25% knockoff. And it'll happen within a month and a half after tax season. All the money's already dried up because these dealers get overexposed. They pay too much. And then they can't sell because the tax money, as soon as it comes, it goes away just like that. And then these dealers are still rushing to the auction, paying overinflated prices. They can't sell the stuff. And then they stop going to auction. And that's when the prices just absolutely get hammered. Going back to the question, next year, beginning of the year into tax time, prices will go up, and they will go up substantially, especially on the used side, $15,000 and under. But then after that, beginning of summer to the middle of summer, then they'll get hammered again. And then we're just going to continue this downward trend that we're on. Happens every year. We're getting back to seasonality of what the car market is normally supposed to look like, at least on the ebbs and flows kind of side. And that's my prediction for the coming months and the coming year.
Well, Justin Case expanded that question a bit. Were you selling cars during 2008? If so, what's your car market predictions for the next few years? Even though he says if so, I think.
Yeah, I did not. I was not selling cars. So I've been doing this now for 12 years? Yeah, 2011 is when I started selling cars. So it was right after all of the nastiness of 2008. But my grandfather was actually a dealer during this time. And what he said happened is, prices obviously went down. You had cash for clunkers going on. I think that was right around the same time period. And he said people just didn't buy anything. And I've got a lot of real estate buddies, a lot of contractors that I talked to when they were in business in 2008. And that's what they said. It's just people didn't spend money. So obviously in that environment, cars aren't going to sell, so prices will come down. And if we hit something like that again, there's so much more leverage in the system as far as the car dealer side right now than there was back in 2008. Floor plans are more of a normal thing now for car dealers getting into the space. And there's so many car dealers that they don't have a dollar to their name, but they have $250,000 worth of floor plan. And a floor plan is just basically the credit card that they swipe to get their inventory. And almost all of these car dealers use it. And because there's so much leverage in the system right now, if we have a hiccup, the size, call it a hiccup, but if we have a cliff, the size of 2008's cliff, car market's going to be bad. And there's going to be a lot of dealers that go out of business. I'm not predicting that. I don't feel like that's going to happen this time around. But if it were to be that size of recession, that kind of velocity of money that gets actually sucked out of the system where people aren't spending money, then yeah, there's going to be a lot of dealers that just get absolutely hammered because there's so much leverage in the system. And we go back to the quote, I think Warren Buffett, that said, whenever the tide goes out, you can find out who's swimming naked. And that's the thing he's talking about. Whenever times get bad, you can see who's over leveraged, who's not been wise with their inventory, with the money that they're actually spending. And as times get worse, those bad decisions are really magnified in a great way.
Best used car, Honda or Toyota?
So, really, you can't go wrong with either. The types of cars that we like to buy here at our lot are Toyota Camrys and Honda Accords, and I really think between those two, I much prefer a Toyota over a Honda. But really, when you're boiling down the two, if you're seeing something that's a similar price, it's really whatever you like as far as cosmetically better. But I feel like if you're going to a 2000 if you're going to a 4-cylinder of Accord or a Camry, or if you're looking at a Civic, or if you're looking at a Corolla, I really think you can't go wrong with either. My personal preference is going to be a Toyota. I believe that a Toyota Camry is the best vehicle ever created. It's the most reliable, best value, even though you're going to have to pay up a little bit. But I feel like because of how long that car is going to last and how reliable that car is, and how much you're not going to have to spend on it for maintenance and repairs down the road, you can't beat a Toyota Camry. And it's just a constant thing that I see at these auctions when I'm looking at all these used cars that have been traded in. There's one vehicle that constantly that we see 300,000, a lot of times 400,000 miles, and it's still running, and it still is absolutely fine. And it's a Toyota Camry. So my pick would definitely be Toyota. If you're going truck, Toyota over Honda in every way possible, because Ridgeline, you can have this debate whether or not a Ridgeline is actually a truck or not. And SUVs, I think you're fine with either. More off-roady is kind of your, not kind of, but more off-roady is your Toyota 4Runners. So if you want that, definitely go that route. And vans, Sienna and Odyssey, I think it's pretty much a toss-up between those two. If you're looking at older year models, like 2007 and older, the Honda Odysseys had some transmission issues, big-time transmission issues. So vans, definitely Toyota. I would just stick with them. But overall, if you're just doing generic, which brand is better, it's going to be a toss-up between the two, whichever one you just prefer. And but for me, it's going to be Toyota. So you might be watching this and not even know this, but this is a brand new channel. So if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, it would really, really help me out.
Unsolicited advice, my favorite kind. Great information you could provide us is what to look for from shady dealers in your price range. Fresh paint over rust, etc.
Yeah, so like undercoating and stuff, when they, dealers, they'll spray paint rust spots, covering up like flood damage, any kind of mold. Big thing is not disclosing damage. I go to dealer classes all the time, and this is one of the big no-nos, but dealers just do it all the time. And it's not telling you, like, if the car's salvage, if they're not advertising it as a salvage vehicle, and it is. And a lot of times they can sell it to you and not market a salvage and not be caught. It'll just go through the system or whatever. It'll have maybe some random box check that they don't disclose to you. But stuff like that, if they're not willing to give you like a vehicle history report with the car, then that would throw up some red flags for me, that they're potentially hiding something. If they don't let you take your car to a mechanic, that's probably one of my biggest things, especially if you're going to a dealer my size and buying stuff that's cheaper. I don't want anybody to buy anything on my lot without taking it to their mechanic to check it out. Our salespeople and me, when I'm up front, will literally say that, okay, before you buy this car, it's a car that's under $5,000. Go get it checked out by your mechanic before you buy it, because we buy so many cars and we can't check out really most of these cars as much as we would want to, because we have so many of them come through, and we want you to know what you're buying before you buy it. So the best way for you to do that is get it checked out by your mechanic so he can sign off on it. And then when you come here and buy the car, you know what you're getting into. So that would be my biggest thing, is if you go to a dealership and you request to take this car to your mechanic to have them check it out, and they don't let you do that, I'm going to shop somewhere else. That's my number one thing. That's my number one piece of advice. Not even about like, you can spend an extra $1,000 on a car, but if it's then what it's worth, but if it's sound then and dependable, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on it repairing, you can still actually even make money on that car as you keep the car, because it's money that you're not going to spend on it because you bought it right to begin with. And I just want to make sure that you're safe when you're going to look at these cars. And the easiest way for you to be safe is to get the car checked out by your mechanic before you buy it. And if a dealer won't let you do that, then that's not a dealer that I want to shop at.
I want to add too, there's some dealer fees that are common for new cars. And when you start seeing used car dealers putting them on used cars that don't make any sense.
Recon fees.
Right.
We started seeing that pop up in the last few
And
years.
transport fees on used cars.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Like when it's being transported from, Detroit, then it's something that can be built in. But when you're talking about transport fees from a city over, I mean, when people get used to seeing a fee, they can add it on. So you need to understand what fees are on there. And I would look to see of their listings, are they misrepresenting their cars in a big way online? I mean, like things can change from when you saw it online to when you get there. They can sell a car in between. So something like that's one thing. But if their inventory online is not generally representative of what you see when you go there, it just throws up some flags. So you just need to be extra careful. It doesn't mean you can't buy the car, but it does mean you don't need to take anything what they're saying at their word. You need background on the car. You need it checked out by somebody that knows what they're doing with that car. You need to drive it and be careful. And if you can, don't go to a dealer like that. Go a distance.
And those fees, it's something that you can check before you even get to the dealership. You can call them and say, okay, I know the car's X amount. It's $5,000. What else am I going to have to pay when I get there? And if they won't tell you this information, the way that you can get this information out is you can say, okay, I know I'm going to want to buy this car when I get there. I want to go ahead and get a cashier's check, or I want to go ahead and have the amount of money, know my budget or whatever before I get there. So you can tell me how much the tax, the tag, registration fee is, whatever else you guys charge on top of the actual vehicle. So I know how much money I need to bring or whatever. And that would be an easy way for you to actually get out of them what it's going to actually cost you to get the car out the door. A lot of dealers, if they're charging these fees, they don't want to tell you this stuff over the phone because they want to get you in the door, because that salesman thinks that they're going to be able to schmooze you into this car, even though you're showing up for a vehicle that you think is price X, but it's actually X plus all these extra fees. That salesman thinks that they're going to be able to sell you all these extra add-ons with the car, and they're not going to want to talk about that over the phone. They're going to want to paint a rosy picture for you before you get there, because they want you in the door, because once you get in the door, that's when their work starts. So they're not going to be forthcoming if it's not a great dealership, if they're not a good salesperson, if they're not an ethical salesperson, then they're not going to be forthcoming with a lot of this information before you actually get to the lot.